Hi everyone, I'm John Mitchell, and in today's video we're going to look at business objectives. So business objectives are the specific goals that a business is aiming to achieve in the future. It's really important for businesses to have objectives because it gives them and all of its employees a sense of purpose and direction, because then they know what the actual business is looking to achieve, and also the employees know their role in achieving that. So it's important that goals are measurable to ensure that there's clarity for the employees and they know exactly what they are trying to achieve. Now, there's a number of objectives specifically in the study design that you must know, and we're going to go through each one of those individually. The first objective is to make a profit. As we mentioned in earlier videos, a business is one that's aiming to make a profit through the sale of goods and services, so it makes sense that one of their objectives is to make a profit. Now, while there are many different forms of profit, this is not an accounting class, so we simply need to think of profit as the amount of money remaining after expenses has been deducted from revenue. Revenue being the amount of money brought into the business through sales, and expenses as the money flowing out of the business. Now, profits are really the lifeblood of the business, and it's an important objective so that businesses can not only survive but also grow if they choose to do so. Now, to make a profit, businesses will look to either increase revenues, which can be achieved by increasing the sale price or actually increasing the amount of sales, and they will also look to minimize their expenses. The next objective is to increase market share. Market share being the portion of the total sales a business has in an industry for a particular good or service, and it's expressed as a percentage. So if we look at the mobile providers in Australia, we can look at the total sales for that industry. Now, each provider will have a certain percentage of those sales. So you can see all the different providers there. We've got Telstra, Optus, Vodafone, and lots of others. So of all the mobile sales in Australia, you can see that Telstra has 38% of those sales, while Optus has 24% of the sales. And we can continue on with Virgin having 4% of those sales. That percentage is their market share. So this is the percentage of market share, and businesses will compete really strongly to increase their market share, because what it means is that customers are choosing their business over their competitors. The percentage of market share is always a representation of the total sales in the market. So for a business to actually increase their market share, they will be taking sales or market share away from other businesses. The next objective on our list is to fulfill a market need. Now, firstly, a market, it's a specific group or even an industry where the people have similar characteristics that the business focuses selling its goods and services to. And a need is this group's desire, or what you might hear as the needs and wants for a particular product or benefit. And so the business is aiming to meet that particular need. Now, businesses will normally conduct market research to find out what the market they are trying to sell to actually wants, and then works to meet that need. If they are able to meet that need, then they'll likely attract more customers. So if we have a look at a quote by Steve Jobs, who said, "You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You cannot start with the technology and try to figure out how you are going to sell it." So I think the way I take what he's trying to say there is that businesses need to look at what the customers actually need and then develop products to try and meet those needs. And that's the kind of thing we're referring to when we talk about businesses aiming to meet that market need. To give you a current example, we can look at the company Stitch Fix. Now, due to the increase of people purchasing clothing online, Stitch Fix saw a real need in the market. Now, what happens with most online clothing retailers is that the customer purchases the clothing online and hopes that it fits well, and then they can often find it difficult to get an exchange or be able to return the clothes if they don't fit well. So Katrina Lake, who's the CEO of Stitch Fix, found that there was a real need for customers to try on the clothing before they decided to purchase when they're purchasing online. So she decided to launch Stitch Fix. Now, what it is there's a personal stylist who sends clothes to the customer to try on. They are sent to the customer's home along with a return package. The customer then tries the clothes on, keeps whatever it is they want to keep, and sends the rest back in the prepaid package. Now, Stitch Fix launched in only 2011, and it's now already worth more than $1.5 billion, simply because it was able to meet the need of the market. Now, the next objective is similar to meeting a market need, but it's actually to meet a social need. So a social need is more focused on the community and how the business can positively impact the lives of others. And this would be a really common objective for social enterprises. Now, an example I've got here is Thank You Water. This is a social enterprise that sells water and other products to customers here in Australia, but 100% of its profits goes towards providing clean water and sanitation products to those marginalised communities around the world. Now, they found a real social need that they were passionate about and trying to impact that in need positively, and their entire business model is based around meeting that social need. The final objective of our study design is to meet shareholder expectations. Remember that shareholders are the owners of companies, and they employ managers to make decisions on how to run the day-to-day operations, but it's important that they are reportable to shareholders because they are the owners. So shareholders have invested money into the business and they're going to expect a return on their investment. And it's important that the decisions made within the business keep that in mind. Now, there's two main ways that shareholders can make a return on their investment. The first is through capital gains, which is where the value of the business increases, which means that the value of the shareholders' shares or their shareholding has increased also. Now, another way is that they share in the profits. So these profits are often distributed to shareholders, which are called dividends, and the shareholder will look to increase those dividends. Now, before we wrap this video up, it's important to note that businesses do have other objectives than the ones listed in our study design. For example, a business may have the objective to increase their rate of productivity in the business or to reduce the level of staff turnover. And there's many more objectives that they can have. It's just important that think about the objectives that are measurable so that the business is able to determine their success in actually achieving them. Now, in order to achieve objectives, managers will decide on the strategies that they're going to implement to achieve the specific objectives. And then finally, in order to measure whether they've achieved the set objectives, they will normally use what we call key performance indicators. So key performance indicators are a specific criterion to actually measure if an objective has been achieved. We're going to get into the specific key performance indicators when we look at Unit 4, but just keep in mind that so they'll set an objective, they'll implement strategies to try and achieve that objective, and then they'll use key performance indicators to measure whether they have achieved their objectives or not. So just to recap, business objectives are the goals a business aims to achieve in the future. There are 5 specific objectives that are in our study design, which are to make a profit, increase market share, fulfill a market need and a social need, and finally to meet shareholder expectations. So for questions, activities, and to find out more about our Unit 3 Flying Start lecture, then come on over to teachingbubble.com.